So welcome everyone to yoga therapy. This is our Thursday night supine class. Tonight we're focusing on the hips. We're going to work on flexibility and strength. And tonight is a special night because today is a festival called Deepavali or Diwali, and it's a festival of lights. So I'm going to be bringing in some light meditations tonight. So if we could just begin, you can be on your back or seated, whatever is comfortable. And I'd just like you to touch your heart, either in namaste position or hands on the heart. Inhale, arms to the sides. And I want you to visualize the radiant sun shining very, very brightly. This represents your changeless eternal self, your soul. And exhale, gathering up that light back to its source, bowing your head to your heart. And just keep that going. I call this sun breathing. Inhale, arms at the sides, filling yourself up with lots and lots of radiant light. And exhale, gather up that light as you draw the belly in. That a few more times. Adding Ujjayi Pranayama. And if you like, adding an Om. The Yoga Sutras say by meditating on the light in the heart, the mind becomes clear, and it's not any light, it's the radiance of the light, that radiance. So we're going to bring that in. Someone else try to get in while I let in. Please come onto your backs. Okay, and if you do want to adjust your camera so I can see you, that's your choice. Just helps me connect with you a little better. Your choice. Okay, so lying down. And just making sure you're muted. If you're just joining us, thank you. All right, so just lying down. Inhale, arms coming up overhead to the floor behind you. Exhale, arms coming down. Now you might feel better in your back to have your knees bent. So your choice on that. And I have my feet at the wall, just to help me ground. Keep that going. I'm just going to make sure you're all muted. Okay, we're good. Inhale, arms coming up. And exhale, arms coming down. And one more time. Okay, we're going to move into Davie Ketum, bridge pose. And this is stretching the front of the hips and strengthening the back. Very simple pose, very effective for our hips, our lower back, and actually the whole body. When I lived in India for many years, my teachers used to say, because it was hard to go for walks, do Deepen every day, and it will lessen the effect of the fact you're not walking as much. It did help. Inhale, arms coming up, lifting the hips up. And exhale, rolling down. Inhale, coming up. People in India go for walks at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning. And now, in my older age, I do that now. I go at 5:30 in the morning. Beautiful time to walk. Inhale, lifting up. So this pose definitely helps us with mobility, with strength in the hips. Helps us with our walking, our running. Now try bringing one foot forward and see the difference. You might want to leave your hands down as you do this, just to keep the attention more on the hips. Inhale, hips up, and exhale, down. Just feel how that affects both hips. More strength on the foot closer, more flexibility on the other leg. Some of you might be able to bring that foot even further forward or even straighten the leg, and just see the effects when you do that, when you straighten one of the legs a bit more. You can even straighten it completely. That's quite tough, but after practice, I've learned how to do this. I like adding the same arm as the extended leg. Inhale up and exhale down. When you exhale down, bring the foot away from you so you're getting some traction on that side. Inhale up, pointing the foot if you like. Exhale, flex, push away. Again, you can do this with the foot on the floor. And when you're ready, try the other side. If you know just one of your hips is a problem, you could work just with that side, take a break and continue. This also strengthens the opposite knee area. So some people will have one hip that's a little wonky, and then the opposite knee will be not as strong. So that can be the case. This really helps with that situation. You can try with that foot away from you, all the way. You can have it straight. Inhale, pointing the toes, and exhale, flexing and pushing the heel away from you. I think I've got some light outside my window, which is very nice on this festival of lights. See a little bit of light out there. It's a bit gray. As I think everyone in the room tonight knows. So just feel this very subtle but challenging practice. And after you've done that around 6 times, just finishing up. And notice how you feel. Let's just do a counter pose, arms at the side, feet wide. Inhale, center, exhale. Just bring your knees side to side. Just to balance out the hips after working one side at a time. Coordinating breath and movement. And just notice how this settles you down, links you to your body, your breath, calms the mind. I don't know about you, but I find yoga practice at this time of day so different than a morning practice. In the morning, I'm always quite energetic and I've got a very clear mind. At this time of day, my mind, it's like I have to detox it a bit. So it takes a little more time to settle in. On the positive, your body's more flexible at this time of day, so that's kind of nice. Okay, so we're going to go back to Dvipadipin, the bridge. Feel free to add a block or two between your legs. You can use a block like this or a pillow. You can have a pillow that even, a bed pillow that goes to the ground. That's kind of nice as well. Some of you might feel more comfortable putting a belt on your legs and pressing out into the belt. I think we did that last week. So I'm going to get you to choose between those variations. You're going to inhale, lift your hips up. And you're going to stay here now or go up and down, your choice. We're going to stay if that works for you. Some of you might be able to interlock your fingers. And as you inhale, try to lift up and then exhale, settle. Inhale, lift up, exhale, press into that block. If you've got the belt on, inhale, press out into the belt and exhale, just relax a little bit. This is very strengthening for the lower back. We're going to release this. We're going to take that block, if you have it, and put it underneath your back. Now, if you have a bolster or a big bed pillow, you can do that. So I'm taking my block like this and trying to show the camera. So on the edge, and this is my preferred method. Some people prefer having a couple of soft blocks underneath the buttocks, or a bolster or a pillow. And we're just going to breathe here. Now you could have that belt on your thighs so that one leg doesn't go out. You could add that. I'm not going to, but you could. And just breathe here. This is a restorative pose. Just focus on the breath. Inhale into the chest, into the belly. Exhale, contract from the pelvic floor, lower belly, belly button in, chest falls. Keep that going. Inhale, top to bottom, chest to belly. And exhale, belly to chest. Now add a hold after inhale if it's comfortable. Inhale, expand the chest, expand the belly, and hold after inhale 2 to 5 seconds. And exhale, release. Now, if you gasp when you do that exhale, that means you've pushed that hold too long. So get rid of it or shorten it. This hold after inhale is part of what we call Brahmanad. It expands the chest, expands the prana, the pranasthana, the chest area, the area where we build energy through our inhale. This can be very helpful for asthma. I know some of you have allergies, immunity. depression this time of year, a lot of darkness, and people start to feel a bit down. There's a lot of seasonal affective disorder this time of year. So just focusing on opening the chest. Now, if you want, this is totally up to you. You could do this with a bolster instead. If you want, you can open your hips in this position. Now, if you're already very open in your hips, please do not do this because this is a big opener. So be careful. But if you're tight in your hips, you might really like this variation. And if this is not working for you, just take a break. You can also do this without the block, just on the floor, Supta Baddha Konasana. Okay, if that works better. Or make the block lower, just one layer. Okay, so I'm just having a look at you guys, seem to be doing okay. I personally love this variation. I get much more out of it than the regular version. And when you're ready, closing those hips as you exhale. Inhale, stay, exhale, just release that block, bolster, pillow, whatever it is, come down. Hopefully your lower back feels okay. It's a bit tender. You might want to consider a different prop the next time we do something like that. That one can be really helpful if you have a bulging herniated disc, that lift it version without the opening. Bring the knees into the chest as you exhale. Inhale, legs up to the sky. Exhale, knees to chest. Now, if you want to really work the mula bandha of this, do it without the arms. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, contract pelvic floor, lower belly, belly button in. Draw those legs in using from the pelvic floor to the belly button. And then you'll really get the apana of the apanasana working, because with those hands, we tend to cheat and do the work with our hands. So use them if you like for support, but my teacher Viji always used to say, feather light touch with your hands in apanasana. And one day when she said that about 10 years in, I actually understood that I wasn't really supposed to be using my hands very much in the pose. So I created this version to help myself and my students kind of get this. This pose can be very soothing for the lower back and a nice counter pose for the legs. And at the end, you can just hold your apanasana with your hands and just feel that deep stretch in the lower back, if that's appropriate. If this is hurting your lower back because you don't like to be in a flex position, just bring your feet down and angle your knees in and rest here. Just do something that's going to work for your back. Moving into lower back stuff next week, and half my brain is already there. All right, when you're ready, we're going to keep going with our hips. So we're going to keep working on the Supta Baddha Konasana, opening the hips. We haven't done much hip opening yet. So we're going to do one side at a time, and it took me a long time to understand this. I just thought it was really way too easy in the beginning, but if you do one side at a time, so same arm as leg or opposite, if you have one hip that's tight, you'll notice that actually you can get it to the ground. And if you do both, you usually can't. If you're tight in your hips, as you exhale, you're going to close it, bring that hand down. And then the other side, inhale, opening the hip, opening, and the arm comes overhead, and exhale, drawing everything to the center. I love seeing your different learning styles. Some of you like to watch me first. Some of you just go right in there. So love seeing that, all that diversity. It's really fun. Now, if you want to make this more challenging, try to really use your core to draw your leg in. It's the other thing I discovered about this very easy pose that I found really boring when I first learned it. It's like, I don't want to do that. But if you really go inside your interoception, feel inside your body and pull that leg in using your core, you will shake when you do it. So you can do opposite arm to leg, same arm as leg. Start to exhale before you start to move. Draw that leg in with your strength of your core, pelvic floor to belly, your mula bandha, your root lock. Now, this is also very soothing for SI joints. I know some of you have some SI joint stuff going on, and this one can be really soothing for that kind of condition in the lower back as well. Just finishing up when you're ready. Now we're going to try both sides. Now, some of you might want to have a bolster underneath your knees or a block under each side to even out the opening. So if you have one hip tighter than the other, I don't know if you can see that from your view of me, but like I have my left hip tighter than my right, and that shifts my whole pelvis, which is not ideal. So if you put these blocks under your knees or even a little higher, or a couple of pillows, you want to have contact between your legs and the floor, that will even out that opening. And then this is Supta Baddha Konasana. It's a classical pose. Bring your arms overhead. You would stay here. We're going to do that later. But first we're going to move. Exhale. Start to exhale and feel your exhale drawing your legs together. And the heavier your legs, the more work of your core from the pelvic floor all the way to the belly button. So we're doing lots of Brahmana tonight. With our theme of the radiance of the heart. Lots of opening poses, lots of inhale-based poses. This is a back arch. You can feel your back arch as you do it. Start to exhale before you start to move. And as you do that, can you notice how your pelvis rotates as you start to exhale? Do you notice how your exhale changes the angle of your hips? Just the exhale from the pelvic floor up. Just go inside your body and see if you can notice these small things. Now you can add a hold after inhale, lying here, hold after inhale, 3 to 5 seconds in the pose. And then exhale. And that hold after inhale gives you energy, gives you inspiration, helps with immunity. One more layer, you can add the bhavana of the radiant heart as you inhale. You can feel that radiance coming out from your heart, all directions. Just filling yourself with that very special starlight of the sun, that huge star. Ujjayi pranayama, constricting the throat. And then if you feel ready, just stay in the full position, Supta Baddha Konasana, supine, bound angle pose. You can have your arms overhead if that works for you, or if with shoulder issues some of you have, you might want to put your arms somewhere else, and that's always the case for any of these poses. You can have your arms in another position. You could have a blanket under your head. You could interlock your fingers and have the palms up towards the wall away from you, above you. Inhale from the chest to the belly. Exhale, belly to chest. And when you're ready, gradually coming out of it, first your arms, and then your legs, and maybe using your hands to close your hips, just to have a little support after that opening. Notice how you feel. Or just do that counter again, drawing the knees into the chest as you exhale. Inhale, legs up and possibly arms up. If you want to add on to this and add a bit more core work, you can exhale and bring the toes to the ground before you draw the knees in on your hold after exhale or during your exhale, depending on how long your exhale is. You might run out of breath, that's okay. You can do that kumbhaka, that hold after exhale. If this feels too easy for you, you can stretch the legs long or longer and do it that way, or the full pose with the legs on the ground. Just be careful, this is quite strong. I'm not going to do that today. My body just told me not to, so I will not be doing that, but you can if you want. We're doing this as a counter pose. And just finishing up. I'm just going to stretch my legs long. You can keep yours bent and just take a rest. Some people call this Suptasana, the asana of lying supine. Suptasana. Just rest. Just notice the effects of the practices that we've been doing so far. All right, so we're going to move into the other side of the hips because we've been doing a lot of hip openings, and it's good to work all directions. So we're going to bend those knees, and we're going to exhale, bring our knees to one side. Inhale, center, exhale, knees to the other side. And if you feel ready sooner than later, you can stay on one side and just breathe there. So some of you might want to keep it moving because of pain in your back or your hips, or your mind is restless. When you stay and moving helps you tie your mind to your object of meditation. It's called dharana, concentration. But at some point, if you want to stay there, feel free to prop anything up that's not touching the floor. So you could use a block underneath either your inner leg to support a knee that doesn't feel very good, or your outer leg. Feel free to use any propping. If you want to make it harder, you can loop that outside ankle on top of that inside thigh. Be careful, this is quite strong. And just breathe here. And I've been doing twists in my second hip class and all my other classes, and I'm going to do the same with you. We're going to move into a whole bunch of twists now. I also noted I hadn't done hip openers yet, so I wanted to do some of those. We're going to move to the other side. If you're not there, just switching, using any props needed. And finishing up. Take a break if you need to at any time. We're going to keep going. I'm going to cross the left leg over the right, if that's successful. And you're just going to twist side to side in this position, and notice how that gets into the outside of the hip. Now we've worked on the inside for the first part. Now we're working more the outside of the hips, side to side. The last class, we did a lot of strength work. Today, it's going to be a bit more on the flexibility side of things, the Supine side. This will be our last class of the term that we have sunlight at all during class. So I, for one, am going to enjoy having a little light coming through my window. Just notice the difference side to side. I'm adding my head turning the opposite way. I'm going to switch legs now. Again, this one can be very good if you have SI joints that are jammed. This variation could feel really good. So I'm crossing at the knees, but you can cross somewhere else if you prefer. I have also played with that. All different effects. So feel free to do your own variations if you prefer. Inhale center, exhale side. I'm going to add a head moving the opposite way. And I just heard my back crack. I don't know about you. And after doing 6 to 8 rounds, just finishing up. We are going to do a counter next just to give your back a break. So for this one, I'm going to use my thin block. This fellow, you can use a thin pillow if you have one. You don't have to do this, but for me, it makes this pose much more accessible. I'm putting it under my lower back, no higher than my waist, the top edge. So just keep that in mind. And I'm going to cross my left leg over my right and then bring my knees towards my chest and possibly hold on to my shins. Inhale away and exhale towards me. You might want to hold your feet. Just notice how this feels in the outside of the hips. You might want to just stay in the pose. You might be ready for that. We usually repeat 3 to 4 times, or sorry, up to 6 times before staying. And you can keep repeating if staying doesn't feel good. You can always keep it moving. A little bit different than figure 4 pose. Switching sides. Personally like this better than figure 4, but it will depend on your hips. Inhale here, exhale, draw towards, holding opposite shins, possibly feet. Just notice any tightness in the outside of the hip. And just finishing up, hug your knees into your chest. Just rest here. Okay, so we're going to go into another hip opener in a different way than I showed you before. So this is with Davie. This is right from Mr. Dashikachar. If you could cross your left over your right. And I'm crossing just above the ankle. You can have it the foot on the thigh if you prefer, or cross over more. Okay, so your choice. Try not to put direct pressure on a joint. That's just a general principle for joints. As you can, you're going to inhale coming up. Now, if your hips are very unstable, I have noted that if you put a block underneath the back, it just makes your hips a little more stable when you come down. They don't get so wonky. So if you have unstable hips, you might prefer having something under your back to come down. Inhale up, exhale down. It's working one side at a time. This one's right from Chennai, India. And switching sides. Notice if one side's very different than the other side. It's also very strengthening for the leg that's on the ground. That leg is working pretty hard. And just finishing up. Okay, we're going to go into figure 4 from here. So I'm going to show this a few different ways. I'm going to start at the wall. This is more an Iyengar way to teach this, which can be helpful. I'm thinking you can see me at the wall. Okay, I think you can. If you could cross, starting with the left leg crossed over the thigh. So your pose might be this, just inhale, opening the hip, and exhale, releasing, or even crossing over with the other hand. Sometimes in yoga therapy, we'll use this. So you can do that, or just inhale, open, exhale, release. Or some of you might start to bring that leg towards you. And you could do this by coming quite close to the wall. And just see if you can get a little more opening by being a bit closer to the wall. So you can play with that. I'm just going to stay at this point because we've done a lot of warm up for this. And if you feel your hips are shifting, you can put that block or pillow under your lower back, and that will help stabilize the hips, or you can do it with your attention. Just pressing the lower back into the floor so the hips don't shift. Just stay here and breathe. Just really ground the lower back into the floor as you exhale. When you're ready, switching sides. You start with that upper leg straight as well. That can be a nice way to get into it. And then just bend to where you can. And see if you can get into the outside of the hip. This works with the Piriformis. Some of you will know about that. That can lead to tightness in the Piriformis, can lead to sciatic pain, sciatica. Again, as you inhale and exhale, try to keep that lower back coming to the ground. And when you're ready, finishing up, just stretching your legs up on the wall or to the sky. Just taking a rest here. All right, we're going to go into one more set of twists. So some of you will want to have a bed pillow on each side of your body for what I'm about to show, and I'm just going to use my bolster to show that. If you've been at the studio with me, you might remember me having bolsters flying all over the room around now. So you could have a bolster that you bring your legs to, or a pillow, or a block. So I'm just going to show, will depend on your ability to rotate. So we're going to go into a stay pose now. You're going to shift your hips to your right, and then bring your knees to your left. I'm showing the opposite. Now at this point, if that shoulder pops off, you've got some choices. So you can put that bolster underneath the legs. You can put a block underneath. You can put a block between the legs. You can do both of those things. And that just helps get everything a little higher. Or a big bed pillow under your legs. And this is going into the lower back as well. Jatra Paravriti. This is working on that fire in the gut. During this damp weather, some of you might not be feeling quite as fired up as you usually are, and that would be normal. So we have to fire up through our exercise and our yoga. Now, if this is feeling easy, consider stretching one leg and holding it with your hand or with a belt. And if that is feeling easy, you can stretch both legs and hold them with your hands or a belt. Just trying to find my belt here. There it is. So you've got a belt. Nice to put it around your toes. You can also have your feet crossed and just hold your bottom foot. That can feel really nice as well, especially if you have one hip that's different than the other. So your bottom foot crossed on top and drawing that top hip down. And the lower back. If you've got compression in one side of your lower back, this can be really nice. And it can help balance those hips. When you're ready, we're going to go to the other side. Just release very carefully into the other side. I start in the center of my legs bent. Shift my hips to the right and bend my knees over to the other side. You're trying to align your spine within the twist. And then when you're ready, stretching just the top leg. You could use a belt on that foot or hold it with your hand. That's classical. Feel the stretch on the outside of the hip. You might want to use both legs. You put that belt on both toes. Hardest part about the props is getting them on your body. And then once you're in there, it's pretty good. Or if you've got that top hip, is a little higher than your bottom, you can play with let's see here, there we go. I can play with looping it underneath. So I've got my top foot underneath my bottom one, and that draws my top hip down. Personally, this is my favorite version. So pick your medicine. And if you've got the flexibility in your upper back, you could turn your head to the opposite side with the head coming towards your twist, the back of the head, and then turning the nose the opposite direction. Now in this pose, draw the belly in from the pelvic floor up. And maybe even hold after exhale. Jatra Parvriti, the twist of the Jatra Agni, the fire at the belly. When you're ready, release that. As you exhale, and then inhale back to the center. Moving into our last pose, counter pose. Urdhva Prasarita Padasana, exhale, knees to the chest. Inhale, legs to the sky, arms overhead. And just continue this. Again, remember, try to do that Apanasana, knee to chest, by contracting the pelvic floor up to the belly button. So use the muscles inside, the deep core muscles, to do the pose. And when you're ready, you can finish up by just putting your legs up the wall with a belt on your legs. You're welcome also to use a bolster underneath your buttocks. Okay, so you can do that. And how I go into it, I'm sure you all have different methods, is I just bring one hip to the wall with bent knees. I've got my belt here, ready to go. And then I flip my legs up. And I put the belt at that point on, which I know can be a little challenging. I guess all these things help keep us young, trying to do all these strange yoga things. But anyway, you can skip the belt part. You can tie it on your thighs, or I personally like it on my ankles, and you could do both as well. And the idea of the belt is just so you can relax, especially if you have one hip that kind of opens more than the other. It will kind of sabotage the pose. You won't be able to relax. If you have a sandbag at home, you could put it on your feet, or a bag of heavy basmati rice or beans. Add a little weight. You can put a weight on your belly, a block or a sandbag or a pillow. And you're just going to breathe there. I'm going to chant for you. So I'm going to come out of this pose, but you stay and just completely relax. And got my little pumpkin. I'm going to bring the pumpkin out for this event as we chant to the light. Just settling in, resting your breath. I've got a deepen from India in my pumpkin, my jack-o'-lantern, this festival of lights. If you like, you can visualize that light shining at your heart. And then feel the radiance of that deepen, that light, that jyoti. Feel the radiance of that light all around you. So can you expand that radiance out? Take your attention clockwise, anti-clockwise. It's a meditation I do almost daily, and it keeps me cheerful most days. Some days tougher, but Vishokava Jyotishmati Vishokava Jyotishmati Vishokava Jyotishmati Vishokava Jyotishmati Vishokava Jyotishmati Vishokava Jyotishmati. Meditating on the light in the heart, mind becomes clear. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Namaste. Namaskaram. Happy Deepavali, Festival of Lights. Inviting our ancestors home to the light. All these lamps we're putting out in India and here in the West with our jack-o'-lanterns. It's about bringing our ancestors home to safety, home to the light of lights. Namaste, namaskaram. Thank you very much.